It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to talk about something that looks pretty cool and actually really fun, and it's called Work Adventure. So if you've been working remote in the last year and a half, and I'm sure there's a high probability that you have, this is really a cool way, in my opinion, to kind of recreate the in-office experience that you might be missing. So what happens is you have something like you can see on the screen here where you've got an office, and now you can create your own layouts, and there's a whole other thing about how to do that. But there's some default layouts that you can use out of the gate. But you can see here kind of what's happening. So you have, this is you in the bottom right all the time, and you're kind of controlling your character here in this 16-bit looking video game world. And as you go into a conference room, you can have a link set up with jitsi.meet that opens up a Jitsi conference, or if you go stand next to somebody, you'll see a circle come around the two of you. And when that happens, you'll notice, so here they went into the conference room, and here's the Jitsi.meet with everybody in the meeting, and then you're going to see them get close together, and they start a little just discussion. And that's not through Jitsi.meet, that's really just through peer-to-peer communication, which is pretty awesome. But really, it's a way where you can lay out your virtual office, and all of the people in your team can go into their virtual office and kind of have this up. And when you want to talk to somebody, it's just like walking over to their desk. You just control your character to walk over to their desk, and you start having a conversation. If you have a meeting that's scheduled, you go into the meeting room, and it starts a Jitsi.meet meeting, and you can have a conference. So it's kind of cool, and it's kind of fun, and I just really thought this was a really cool way to do this. And you can run all of this in Docker. Now I'm running this in DigitalOcean because I want it to be out there on the public site, but I'll leave it up so that you guys can go give it a test and kind of see how it works if you want to. I can't be in there all the time, unfortunately, but I'll try to kind of leave it open here and there when I'm not in the middle of meetings or in the middle of other stuff. But it's really a fun, simple, kind of cool way to do meetings and to have some fun, I think, with your remote work that you've got going on. This could also be a really fun way to do something with clients. So if you have clients who are kind of looking for something better than remote, but you really don't feel safe doing something in person yet with COVID still happening, or any other thing that may be happening in the world at the time that you happen to see this video, I think this is a really cool way to do remote work, but still have a fun feeling of being in the office and being able to move around and do things. And they've even got restrooms here. So if you're actually on a restroom break, you could take your character over there, and then people know, hey, when he's over there, he's probably not going to answer whenever I try to call him. So I think it's pretty awesome. I want to show you guys how to set this up. It is open source. Now, as with any project, these guys are actually hosting this. There are plans where you can just get on their servers and set up your own stuff and upload your own maps for your office and do everything and have your own space. So you should definitely go out and check out what their plans cost and how much it would cost you to do this if you don't want to set this up yourself or go through the trouble to set it up yourself. I'm going to show you today how to set it up yourself, but just know that if you test this out and you're like, man, this is really cool, I want to do this for my work, or I want to do this for the place that I work, or I want to do this for my friends, you know, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be just for work. It could be for school. It could be for classes where you have kids that are going into classes in a small school, and you want them to move around virtually through their classes instead of having to come into the physical school for a while. This could be just for you and your friends to have your media room, or have a game room, or have other things. Maybe it's for your social group, like a Linux users group, or anything else. This is just such a cool, fun way to do something great. So I'm going to show you how to install it, but I do want you to know that if you don't want to install it, you want to use this, get signed up, jump in, try it out, see how it goes. They have a demo right here. You can just click on the demo and get started right now. You don't actually have to go and do all of the install to try this. I'm going to leave my server up for a little bit. I probably won't leave it up forever, but it'll be up for a little while, so you guys can go try it as well. And you'll see the server name as we go through and kind of set things up. And then, of course, if you want to sign up with these guys and do a paid subscription or anything like that, you can do that as well, and you can see the pricing and stuff here at their site. So I'll have links to their site, links to their main GitHub page. We're going to use an offshoot fork that they make called the Community Edition today to put this all together. And then I've got some special Docker Compose and environment files that we'll put together as well. And I'll show you some places to get some good resources and some ways to do things very, very easily so that you'll be up and running in no time. And I'll talk about some of the struggles that I hit personally as I was trying to go through this and get it set up and kind of test it. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this and you'll like what I'm about to show you. We're going to get started here in just a minute right after this. I just want to say thank you so very much to all of my patrons over at Patreon. It really means so much to me that you have become a patron and that you support my efforts in making these videos. I hope that you enjoy them. I hope you get a lot out of them. I try to post them every week on Patreon as well as YouTube and other social media sites, but I want you guys to really enjoy this and appreciate it. So thank you so much. Also, thank you so much to everyone who subscribes. If you haven't subscribed already, click the little subscribe button. Click the little bell so you'll get notifications when I put out new videos about really great open source software. And then click that thumbs up so other people can find this video and YouTube's algorithms will let them know that this is a good video to watch. Thank you so much. Let's get started. To get into the installation of this really cool software, they have a GitHub repo that you can go to and you can pull this thing down and you can actually have it build from the repo so you can get the latest and greatest thing. They've got a lot of instructions here. If you want to help them do development, you can do that as well. They tell you how to get it set up in Docker Compose. I mean, just so many cool things that they've set up to make it really easy as far as development. But if you want to run this in production, it takes a little bit more effort. Not much, but you can also run it in production. As I was going through, they use Trafic or Traffic. Again, I don't know how that's pronounced, but I think it's supposed to be Traffic. But for their reverse proxy, I just don't know that much about Traffic. I've never learned. I use NGinX Reverse Proxy Manager, and it works great. So I just couldn't really get the Traffic stuff to work right, and I tried several times with several different servers that I set up and then blew them away. So I went out to their Discord site. So they do have support on Discord. So if you're not a Discord user, I wasn't, but I became one recently to get on and do a really cool collab with the eBcorp channel. So if you haven't checked out his channel, go check that out as well. But I did see their Discord stuff when I was checking out their site. So I went over to Discord and looked at their self-hosted page and asked for some help. And very quickly I got some really, really great help and assistance with getting things set up in a way that I could get it running. So we're going to use the Community Edition version of WorkAdventure today. And they do commit things back to WorkAdventure. And you can see that they do things, they've done things pretty recently. Some several days, some a few months, a few weeks. So it's not like it's a dead project. It is absolutely in full swing, and they are doing stuff with it all the time. But we're going to use the Community Edition today. As you're looking at it, if you want to use the full edition, please jump over to that page and do that. I'll have these links in the show notes and the description so you can get to them. And then we're also going to use one of my repositories. So I have had these up for a while where you can go grab one of these Docker install scripts to install Docker and Docker Compose on a server running Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, just different versions of Ubuntu. And then I thought, well, why am I just doing that? I always ask them to install NGinX Proxy Manager too. So I've added the ability to install NGinX Proxy Manager, and I'm adding it with a very basic default YAML file for Docker Compose. So it'll go grab this on its own. It'll run it and set it up, and you can just jump over and use it. But I would suggest going into the Docker Compose file after everything's done running and actually editing those values. So I'll kind of show you what we're talking about here in a little bit, and we'll use this one today to go and do that. But we'll kind of get started here. We're going to install WorkAdventure to use on your own self-hosted installation. So we're going to go down here. I'm going to open up a terminal, and I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger text, not too huge, but I want to give you a little bit of space here. So I'm going to do this on DigitalOcean today. I've got my test server running on DigitalOcean. We're going to set up another one. So I'm just going to go over to DigitalOcean here. I always click Create, and then I click on a droplet, and that's what they call their virtual servers here on DigitalOcean. So their virtual servers are super fast. They're just really amazing things. And look at all the stuff you can do with DigitalOcean. I mean, I'm going to be completely transparent. If you click on my DigitalOcean link, you get a credit and I get a credit. So I am absolutely encouraged to have you use DigitalOcean. But honestly, if you want to use Linode, if you want to use the Oracle free tier thing, if you want to use SSD nodes, if you want to use whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as you get a good server that will do the right things that you need it to do, and you can set up that server to run what we're going to run, go use whatever works for you. But DigitalOcean I really like. I like how simple it is to get things set up. So I'm just going to leave it on Ubuntu 20.04 today. I'm going to come down. I'm going to do a basic plan. They have lots of different plans, so depending on what you need, you can do different size plans. And then I'm going to click over here on this one. Now, I did this on a $20 server because it's got 4 gigs of RAM and 2 CPUs. You could do it on less. The first time I tried it on a $5 server, and it just never would get far enough to come up. So I don't think that was quite enough power. We could try a $10 server today, but knowing that we're doing video and things like that, I just don't know how much it really takes. I don't think it takes a lot though. New York's fine. It just auto-picked that for me. No big deal. As we move down, you can see that there's other options. Now, if you don't have SSH keys set up, you should set them up and then upload them to DigitalOcean if you want to use DigitalOcean. But if you don't, then just click on password and it'll let you put in a password. You just have to follow the rules for the password there. I have SSH keys, so I'm going to go ahead and select those real quick. And then I just need one droplet. I'm not going to do any kind of clustering or anything like that. And then I'm going to give it a domain name, or the host name for the domain name that I want to use for my server. So in this case, I want a domain name because I'm going to make this public where other people can access it. You do have options on these things to do what they call a single domain, which means you're going to run it inside of a local network, kind of like in localhost mode, I guess is the best way to put it. You're not putting it out there through the internet. You're not trying to use a reverse proxy with it. And you can use it all inside of like a work network, or inside of your home network or something like that, or on a VPN network between just you and your friends. That will be the single domain version. Today we're going to do the actual full production version, but there are other options, so kind of go through their documentation and check that out. So we're going to call this workadventure.opensourceisawesome.com. That is a long URL, but I will have it linked in the description and in the show notes, so you guys can just click the link and you won't have to actually type all that in. Now that we've got everything set, we're just going to click on Create Droplet, and while we're waiting on that to create, we're going to go over to our domain registrar, which in my case is Hover. Again, I do have an affiliate link for Hover. If you don't have a domain registrar and you'd like to try out Hover, you can get a credit for trying it out. The first thing we need to do is set up an A record to point to our server. So we're just going to click here. It's already set to A, and we're going to type in the name that we gave before our full domain. So that was workadventure. We're going to jump back over to DigitalOcean, and we should see our server getting finished up here, and it is. And we're just going to copy our IP address. We're going to go back over here, and we're just going to paste that in. I'm going to set that to 5 minutes, and I'm just going to click on OK. So now I have an entry for DNS, which means pretty shortly I should be able to point to workadventure.opensourceisawesome.com and get to that server. So now we're going to SSH into our server, and this is going to be root at workadventure.opensourceisawesome.com. In my case, that's what it's going to be. In your case, it's going to be something different, and you're going to try to SSH into your server. So I trust the fingerprint. It's my server. And we're in. So I'm going to clear this out. And the first thing I always like to do is update and upgrade my server. So I'm going to do sudo apt update && sudo apt upgrade -y. So this part says go out and update all of my repository information so I get the latest packages information. And then use that information to upgrade my server. And the -y means, and just answer yes when it says, are you sure you want to do this? So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to let it go out and start doing that, and we'll come back when it's finished. Alright, all of that stuff finished updating, so I always like to do a reboot. Now some people say you don't have to reboot Linux, but I feel like this just clears out the cache and gets things ready and all that. So we do sudo reboot, hit enter. We're going to give it about 20 seconds. It does not take long with these virtual private systems that DigitalOcean has. And then we'll log right back in. Alright, we are back in, and now we're going to go and actually set up a couple of things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file called docker-install.sh because I want to install Docker, Docker Compose, and NGinX Proxy Manager so that we can actually get the WorkAdventure app running in Docker. So I'm going to do nano docker-install.sh. And then from this file, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to my repository that I have. And I happen to have this one that I updated. Now I need to update the rest of them. I haven't done it yet. But I have this one right here that is a Ubuntu 20.04, and it's to also install NGinX Proxy Manager. So I'm going to click into it. And I'm just going to go and copy all of this. So I'm going to highlight it all the way down to the end here. I'm going to do Control-C to copy it. And now I'm going to do Control-Shift-V to paste all of that in. Make sure I have at least one line at the bottom. Just make sure everything's there, starting with the hashtag, the shebang as they call it. And we'll go down. So right here we're going to do something new. This makes a directory called NGinX Proxy Manager and moves into that directory. And then it goes out and it grabs this default NGinX Proxy Manager file. and then it runs that docker compose.yaml to install it, and then it'll tell you once it's done. Now this is going to happen whether it succeeds or not, but it'll tell you here's the example stuff that you need, or the starter admin info you need in order to get into NGinX Proxy Manager. So pretty straightforward. We're going to save this with Control-O, Enter, and then Control-X to get out of Nano. And then we're going to just change the permissions on it to be executable. So we're going to do chmod space plus X, and then docker install.sh. And now we can run it with /docker-install.sh. So you're going to make sure you have all that typed out, and we're going to hit enter. And it's really going to kind of do its thing. We don't have to do anything else here. All right, when everything finishes, you'll see something like this at the bottom where it tells you, so you should see everything getting pulled for Docker Compose, and you should see done and done for NGinX Proxy Manager DB and app. And then it'll tell you that you can go to your server hostname or IP address on port 81, and your initial login credentials are right here. Now, I recommend that you go in and you actually change this a little bit. So we're going to cd into NGinX Proxy Manager. It creates this folder for you. And we're going to go into the Docker Compose files. We're going to say nano docker compose.yaml. And you'll see here that I've just got everything defaulted to the normal stuff that they have on their site. It's not the best practice to use this. So for the MySQL user and MySQL password, I suggest you change these to something else before you get started. So I'm going to say Brian, and I'm going to say right here, I'm just going to put in some other password. Now, again, you should use a strong password, not this one. And then down here, we need to make sure that those match for the MySQL user, Brian, and the password. And then up here for your MySQL root password, you should make this something long and complex. And then you can save this with Control-O and exit with Control-X. And then we're going to do Docker Compose down. There we go. It's going to take down our Docker Compose files here and get rid of those containers. And we need to do an ls. And you'll see there's a couple of folders here. We're going to get rid of these folders real quick. So we're going to do sudo rm-rf data and sudo rm-rf let's encrypt, just because we haven't done anything with it yet. So we're going to get rid of those. Now if we do an ls, we have Docker Compose. So now we're going to run Docker Compose up-d. And this will start up the system with our new values that we've put into our Docker Compose file so that we have a more secure system. So now if we go out to our domain, we get the congratulations screen from NGinX Proxy Manager. And if we go to :81, we'll get our login screen. Now here we're going to use admin@example.com. And here we're going to use changeme as our default logins. And the first thing it's going to ask us to do is to change our default login. And then it wants us to change the password. So you put in the current password, changeme, and then a new password that's much stronger. Once you've done that, I like to go and I like to log out and then log back in with the new credentials to make sure everything is working before I get too far down the road. And if you get logged back in, you're doing good. So we're logged back in. NGinX Proxy Manager is working just like we want. That is excellent. Now I want to talk about the workadventure-xce, or the Community Edition. So there's a lot in here. You do not have to pull down this entire file if you don't want to. And today we're not going to. We're going to use some pre-created Docker images. But you can see here they have some good information out there. And again, just like the other page, they'll show you how to set up development mode, how to do all kinds of things if you're a Mac OS developer instead of regular, how to do things if you're running Mac OS for development. And then, of course, setting up your production environment. So they tell you that you need to go into the contrib/docker directory. And that is true. So if you go out here and you look for contrib, which I will find, it's alphabetical, contrib. And then we see right here is Docker. So you'll see a few files here. And really the one you're going to be most interested in if you're running something where you want to run it on the internet is going to be the dockercompose.prod.yaml file. If you're running something inside of a single domain, like inside of your local network, inside of your work network, inside of a VPN network, then this would be the file that you probably want instead. If you're going to be doing development, then this would be the file that you'd want to work with. So just kind of look at these things as you go along. Now, I am going to provide on my show notes the Docker Compose file that I'm using today and the environment variable file that I'm using today. So you can see there's also an environment variable file. You'll need these environment variable files as well. So this will help you get everything up and running. But again, I'm going to use what I've set up to make everything work today. These are fairly different from what I have set up. So it's up to you. If you want to use traffic as your reverse proxy, then these are the things you probably want to use. If you know traffic pretty well and you can use it, then go for it. If you want to use NGinX Reverse Proxy Manager, which we just ran the install for, then this would be, more the route you want to go, I think. I am going to go and just open up my terminal again. I'm going to CD back into my main page here, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call this mkdir, and we're going to call this workad. Just real simple. CD into workad, and we're going to just ls, and we're going to do a couple of things. So we're going to create a Docker Compose file and a .env file. So the dot makes it a hidden file. So we're going to say touch.env and touch docker compose.yml. So now if we do an ls, you see docker compose.yml. If you want to see both, you have to do ls-a, and you'll see there's a .env file and a docker compose file. These are both just empty files right now. We've just created the file, but it's empty. Now we need some actual information and data out of those things. And again, I will have all of this stuff in the show notes for you, so you can go get them out of the show notes. But I'm going to go grab them, paste them in, and we'll go through them. All right, I've pasted the text in here so that you guys can kind of see what we're looking at and what we're working with. So the first thing we need is our domain. So we gave our domain a name, so we're going to call it work. And we're going to just put that in, workadventure.opensourceisawesome.com. Now yours will probably be shorter than this, hopefully so, or else you'll have links for people so they don't have to type it in. But this is our domain, so that's what we're going to type in right here. Debug mode is false. I don't need it in debug mode. Our Jitsi URL, I'm just going to use the main Jitsi site. Now, if you have your own Jitsi server and you want to use that, then you should absolutely put that in here. Go for it. It should work as long as you can reach that server from the outside internet or from the network wherever you're running this. It should work. But I'm just going to use meet.jit.si. Now, if you're running a Jitsi environment and it has authentication set up on it, then you need to set Jitsi private mode to true. And you'll have to put in your jitsi_ISS address information and your secret Jitsi key right here. So this is just our environment variable file. So put in those things here so that your work adventure information can reach Jitsi. Otherwise, just use the public Jitsi servers for now. Now you do need a turn server if you're trying to go out to the internet. And where I found this was just out there on GitHub. If you search turn servers public GitHub, you'll find it, but I'll put a link again in the description and in the show notes. But I just used this one that was out there. It's got the information that we need, and I filled it in. So there's nothing special. It's out there on GitHub. There's nothing super secret about it. The next one is the URL by default that is set up for the base map. So by default, this is set up with the Work Adventure URL and their base maps. So feel free to just go out there and do that and use that. They have other maps that you can set up, but again, setting up maps and doing things and creating custom maps is a whole other tutorial that maybe I'll get into one of these days, but you guys can go do a little research on that. But this starter map is really good, just for you to kind of test it out and see how things work. Finally, we have Let's Encrypt. This is really not going to do our Let's Encrypt, but feel free to go ahead and put in your email address for Let's Encrypt if you want to. It's actually not going to do anything for Let's Encrypt, but it's good to have an email address in there anyways. And then whether you're going to federate the pusher part of the service, most likely no, so just put false and leave it false. And then I put max per group is 100. You can change this number to fit what you want. Now, how high it will go, I don't know, but 100 seems like a lot to me. If you need 200, try it, so on. Max username length. So this is so that somebody doesn't put their username as supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, super guy is the greatest person in the world and you've never seen anybody so great. that would be ridiculous and it would not fit on the screen. And this is meant to be a 16-bit game, and your username hangs over your little icon person. So yeah, you probably want to set this to be something even smaller than this maybe, but I set 25 just for testing. We can knock it down to 12. How about that? And then disable notifications I have set to false. Now you can change this to true if you don't want to get any kind of notifications, but I've got it set to false right now. And then skip render optimizations. I do want render optimizations right now, so I have it set to false. We can change that to true later if we see issues, but I think changing it to true would probably create more issues. Finally, we have the secrets section. So secret key is just a long string of random numbers. The API for an admin side is a long string of random numbers. And then the admin API URL would be a URL, but I'm not setting up the API side of it, so I'm just leaving that blank. But these do have placeholders inside of the actual Docker Compose file, so set these to what you want or leave them like this. It's up to you. You just don't want it to be really insecure, so I'd say set them to something else. We're going to save this and exit. And now we're going to go adjust our Docker Compose file. There's really not much to adjust, but I'll show you what's in it, and then you can run it. And we're going to go paste everything in. All right, so we're going to go through our Docker Compose file now. We have our Docker Compose file that is version 3.3. Under services, we have our reverse proxy. So again, you can see this is Traefik and it does run, but it's very minimal. So we've got a log level, we've got the providers, which are Docker, and the entry points, which is the web address at port 80. Really, we're going to set this up as port 9999 is pointing to port 80. You can change the left side of this if you want to use a different port number. It's completely up to you. 9999 works for me on this one, so we're just going to leave it. And then this depends on our pusher Docker container, which is below, and our front Docker container, which is below. Our volumes are /var run docker.sock mapped to /var run docker.sock. And we have the restart policy set as unless we stop it on purpose. Now you have a couple of things here. If you're going to do this from the build portion, you need to uncomment these and then comment out the image line. So all three of these lines uncomment and then comment out the image line, but you need to have the entire repo of the XCE stuff pulled down. So I would say, unless you want to do that, don't mess with these. Just leave it alone. We're going to use this image, which is the official image for the front. We've got environment variables that are just pulling from our env file. So everything here you want to leave pretty much as it is. Then you've got your Traefik little mappings there. Same thing for pusher on the build, just leave it alone, use the image. And again, we've got all of our keys and all of our stuff set up. I commented these out. I don't know what these were. This was a file that was shared with me by somebody over on the Discord. So I commented them out because I didn't have any of this stuff. So it works without it so far, so I wouldn't mess with it. Finally, we have our labels for traffic there, and again, restart unless stopped. And then we have the backend. Again, we're using their official image, and we have our environment variables. And then again, we have labels. And then finally, we're going to have our Redis and all are unless stopped for the restart policy. So we have everything here that we need. We didn't really have to change anything. Just put it in, Control O to save, and then Control X to exit. And we're pretty much ready to run this thing. All right, now that we've got everything set, we're going to just do docker-compose. And I like to do up and not just up-d the first time because I can kind of see what's happening with it. So we're just going to hit up. As you go along, you're going to see this pop up here. And it's going to say 8081. This is not correct as far as where you want to access the site. And you actually want to wait a little bit longer. So after it finishes running everything and it gets to this point, you still want to give it probably about another 5-10 minutes, just depending on the server you're trying to run it on, because there is more processing happening, and it does take a little while for the site to actually come up and start running. And that's even when you restart it through Docker Compose. You just need to give it some time, because it does take a little time to get everything up and running and working correctly. Anytime you want to see logs, whenever you run Docker Compose up with the -d flag for daemon, you can just do Docker Compose and then logs. And you can just get a snapshot of what's happening and where it's at in the process. You do have to rerun that command each time, but you can see as it moves along what you're getting and where things are at. So we can see here that it says it's starting again on port 8081. So we're going to give it a little bit of time. Now if I just go to this, it's going to take me to the congratulations page, so I need to put a colon and then 9999. And we're still getting bad gateway, so it may still be loading up, so we'll give it a little bit of time. It says ready to accept connections. Maybe that's a good sign. Let's go back and try to refresh. There we go. Alright, so we've got our start page up. Now we don't want to get started yet. We want to set up our reverse proxy and then set up some SSL on this thing, so we're going to go through that process as well here real quick. It doesn't take much extra effort to do this because we've already got NGinX Proxy Manager installed and ready. So we're going to go create a new host. So let me go back and I'll show you how we do that. So you click on the hosts, click on add a host, and it's going to give you this drop down. I'm going to increase the size on this just a little bit for you guys. In this first box, we're going to put in the actual domain name of the domain we want to run this on. Whenever you type in the domain name, don't forget to hit tab or enter to make it turn into this little chip, or else it won't keep it. Now we want the IP address of our Docker container for the front end, or for the web browser part, for the proxy that's running on Traefik. So to get that, we're going to go back into our terminal. So to get the Docker network, we're going to do Docker network list. And here it's going to give us a list of the different networks that we're running inside of our Docker environment. So we want this one here that says workad, because that's our Docker compose for this. So we're going to say, to get the information for that, we're going to say Docker network inspect and then workad underscore, and we'll just let it finish with autocomplete. Now that's going to give us a whole bunch of JSON data, but right here we can see that it's running on the 172.20 network. So if we scroll up, we can find the gateway just to make sure that it's correct, and the gateway is 172.20.0.1, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to go back into NGinX Proxy Manager, and we're going to type in 172.20.0.1, and then for our port number, we're going to put in 9999. We're going to say cache assets, WebRTC. In fact, we don't even have to say cache assets. We can just say WebRTC support, block common exploits, and we're just going to save this just to see if we can get to it with an unencrypted page. Alright, so we've got our stuff entered. We just click on the link here just to make sure it's going to open up. And there we go. So we've got our proxy working. Now we want to go and actually put a secure SSL certificate on it from Let's Encrypt. So we're going to go back and we're going to do that. So inside of NGinX Proxy Manager, we just go over here to the right end and we click on the little three dots and we're going to click on Edit. It's going to bring it up. We're going to jump over to the SSL tab. We're going to click here and click on Request New Certificate. Force SSL so that the user doesn't have any choice but to go to the secure page. That way you're protecting yourself and them. Put in your email if you don't already have it. Click Accept, and then we're just going to click on Save. That's going to go out and ask Let's Encrypt, hey, I want a certificate for this site. Let's Encrypt's going to go and make sure it can reach the site on port 80, which it can because we just checked that. And then it's going to issue the certificate and the pop-up will go away. And now if we click, we should get the site, and it should be an SSL encrypted site. There it is. And now we can actually jump in and start using our page. So you wanted to see what it's like. This is pretty easy. I'm going to put in my name here, and I'm going to hit continue. It's going to ask for permission to use my camera and stuff here in just a second. But first I'm going to pick my little person. And there's all kinds. You can go through here like this. Just kind of scroll through. It's just like an old video game. So you can kind of pick what you want. And then you can even customize, so you can click here and it'll load up some customization options if you want to try that. Lots and lots and lots of customization options on here, so you can just really go through and kind of see like what's my options here. And I'm just going to say return. This one's just fine. And now you see it says, so it's going to ask for permission for my camera and my microphone. So I don't want to use the USB PNP mic. That's what I'm recording with. So I'll just give it the HD webcam on both. I'm going to tell it to remember this choice. I'm going to click on Allow. There I am. You can see me. I'm waving. Hey, and you can see that I'm getting audio through the camera because there it's moving up and down. And you can see there's my mic. Now I can still select a different mic, and then it'll probe me again up here like, hey, do you want to give that one permission? So it sees your audio devices, but it needs permission for them, of course, and permission for your camera. This is my office. There you go. I'm going to hit Let's Go. and it's going to load up the base map that we have set up from the guys over at TCM there, which is the coding machine. This stuff comes up in French. I don't read French, so I don't really know what it says, but you can just close that with the X. And now you can use your arrow keys or your WASD to move around, I believe. Yeah, there you go. So I'm using the WASD. If you're a lefty for controls like that, you can do that. I can use my right hand on the arrow keys. And you can kind of see what's going on, and you can go into these rooms. And this is just a room where people would kind of set their person to be working. There you go, I'm working. And until somebody walks up to talk with me, of course, I'm not going to have a conversation. But there are also conference rooms. So if I go in here and I go down, you can navigate just like any other room. There is a conference room right here. And you'll see it's going to open up Jitsi.meet. First time it might take just a second to buffer, but there we go. Now we've got Jitsi.meet open, and you can see me talking still. And so we've got all the same controls we would expect from Jitsi.meet, and you could have other people just walk into the room, and as they walk into the room, they join the meeting, and you start seeing more people in your Jitsi.meet. So pretty cool. As soon as you leave the room, you see it closes down Jitsi.meet. And we're going to go back over here, and we'll go up through this little space, and we're going to go over here. So what I like to do is I like to go to these stairs. And this takes me to the floor that I kind of like. It's got the Christmas tree theme, stuff like that. But then again, if you take the stairs, you go back. So you're back on the main floor. If I take the stairs again, now I think if I take the stairs, I can't go up. Trying to remember. I think there's stairs over here too, but I can't go up. Yeah, so it tells you when you can't go to a certain place. But there's lots of stuff here. There's kind of 2 different floors that you can check out. And if you go here, there's the toilets. So the restroom, basically. There you go. You can go use the restroom. And you've got little kind of cubicle areas for small groups or offices for office managers. Just so much little cool stuff. And this is built out. And again, you can build this out. I'm not going to go into that on this video, but there you go. Now I'm going to load this up from another machine and then come into a conversation. All right, I got my other user in the game, so I'm going to bring him downstairs to that floor. And there you see him pop up on the screen. So now if I walk over to him, you see the circle comes around me, and there it pops up on the screen. So if I look over at that camera, you can see, hey, there I am, I'm talking. Now I have the sound all kind of set so that hopefully we're not getting a bunch of echoes and reverberation. But if I look at this camera, of course, that person on their screen is seeing me look at this camera, and we're having a conversation, and it's pretty cool. So you can see that if I get too much too back there, but if I look here, if I look there, so I've got 2 cameras, I've got 2 machines set up. So this is really a cool application. I think it's pretty awesome. I want to show you the Jitsi.meet meeting function real quick. So I'm going to leave that conversation. You see, as soon as I walk away far enough, the conversation turns off, and it's just like a real kind of virtual life experience, right? You get close enough to somebody, you talk to them, you walk away far enough, they don't want to talk to you, they don't want to yell. So we're going to go into a conference room over here. Yeah, there's one here at the end of the hall, so I'm going to take my guy in. It's going to open up the Jitsi.meet. Then I'm going to bring my other guy down here, and if you hold shift and the arrow keys, you run, so I'm going to run him over. And I'm going to walk him in. And now he's going to open up in Jitsi.meet as well. And now you'll see there are 2 of us in Jitsi.meet, and of course you can change that view, I believe with this one, yeah. So you can see, there I am, turn, and turn, and turn. So I've got 2 cameras pointed at me, and you can kind of see there would be 2 people in this meeting. Of course, if there were more computers for me to log in from, there would be more people in the meeting. So as soon as your character leaves the room, let's see, you need to click back on the room though to get it to take effect, I think. For some reason, Jitsi.meet takes over the keyboard, so I'm just going to click the close button. That'll boot me out of the meeting. You see it left over. Well, you can't see it. I should have done it from the other screen. So if you hover over your guy, you have these little options. So I can, make him do praise. I can make him clap. So people can see that in the room, of course. And we'll kind of test that here in a minute. So I'm going to go this way. And we'll just kind of stop over here in the middle. And I'm going to go get my other guy. And I'm going to bring him back out of the room. So I know you can't see him too well yet, but there he comes. Now he's moving. So if I mouse over him, I can tell him, let's applaud. And you can see he's applauding. And if I tell him, let's give some hearts, there you go. You can see there's some love going on. And you can say, give him a thumbs up. Good job. Give him a little praise. There you go. So all kinds of good stuff. I don't know why this guy there we go. Click back off. So you click and it goes back away. But I mean, really, yeah, this is just such a cool little application. It has peer-to-peer communication. As you can see, if I sit back far enough from either monitor, you get some really great application stuff. I'm going to move my mic a little closer. But yeah, this is so much fun. I think it's really cool. And again, the fact that you can make your own maps is pretty awesome. Doing that may be a little bit more difficult than it sounds, but I'm going to dig in a little bit and see if I can do it. And I'll try to do a follow-up video eventually about how to do that. It may take me a little while to figure it out, but if it doesn't, then I'll jump in and show you how to do that as well so you can make some cool stuff. They do have some pretty cool maps over on their site, but this is The Coding Machine is the company, I guess. And this is called Work Adventure, so it's like a little 16-bit video game, but you basically have all your people in there, and you could just have this up kind of on the side on one of your monitors and move your guy around, go talk to somebody virtually, and it's just going to start a conversation between you. Or you could go to a meeting in a conference room, reserve the conference room in your space and do that. And again, if you don't want to run this yourself, if you don't want to pay $20 a month for the DigitalOcean servers, or you realize, hey, this isn't enough to handle my crowd, it could be totally worth it to go over to the Coding Machine Work Adventure website and tell them, you know what, we want to pay a subscription and do this. So that funds the open source development of this stuff. Remember that. Keep that in mind when you're out there doing it. I really like this. I hope you do too. If you like this video, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.